All right, and welcome back to Broke Review HQ, and we are back for another review on a recent movie. I went and saw the Naked Gun movie, and I have to say, I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked by how I felt with it. I enjoyed it. Overall, I gave it a high C plus, and I would honestly have to say I enjoyed it very much. It was exactly what I was expecting it to be, especially from the trailers that I saw. I liked the trailers that I saw. I thought a lot of the jokes in those were good. So I went into it already liking the movie, so I had high hopes for it. And going into it, I was not shocked. I still enjoyed it. I still had some good laughs out of it. I could definitely see myself rewatching it. So basically, the movie starts off exactly like how the trailer does, where they're at the bank and, Frank Trebin Jr. comes in and ends up unmasking, beating up all the guards, and some of the jokes in there are just ridiculous. It definitely reminds me of like an old school parody movie, like the Airplane movies, or even the Naked Gun, with how slapstick silly it was. And it was kind of nice to kind of go back and have that kind of comedy after seeing Happy Gilmore in that comedy and going to this one. It feels different, but at the same time it feels almost similar. But it definitely felt like its own thing, and it was kind of nice to go back to that kind of slapstick. I know we haven't had many comedies like that in a long time, so it was a nice breath of fresh air. So they break into this bank heist, they have it all set up, and they end up taking this thing called the plot device. Crazy. I have no idea what that's going to do later on. I have no idea what that's going to do in the ending of the movie. So they break in, hand off the stuff to the guy. Frank is trying to figure out who, broke into the bank, stole the plot device, ended up sending one of these cars crashing off into a ravine or over a cliff that basically crashed one of these smart car vehicles. And they also have a running gag in this movie that I really actually enjoyed. It's very constant. Like, I think it is almost all the way to like the end of the movie, this running gag where Frank and his partner Ed keep getting coffees from people like all the freaking time. Even if they already have a coffee, they just throw the old coffee out and grab the new coffee. Like, it is so stupid, but it is so funny at the same time because it's so small. It's not even a big joke, but the fact that they keep running it throughout the whole freaking movie, it just, I enjoyed that. I love that little small touch there. So when they find this car, figure out who the guy is in the car, and they kind of just chalk it up as that he did it himself. There was no skid marks, no brakes, they basically, he didn't stop to try and stop this, so they figured that he just did it to himself. But his sister, played by Pam Anderson, Beth, does not think so because her brother called her saying that, the guy that he's working for, he's got something that, he's worried about, and like the thing that he's working on is big, and he doesn't trust that it's going into good hands. So he's like, if something happens to me, I want you to know that it's probably this guy. So she doesn't think that it was that, after being worried with that. Frank is obviously attracted to her and wants to help her out because, he's Frank, he's got to help out. But with how many issues that he has been having, because he is such a bad good cop, that he ends up getting taken off the bank heist, and he's basically put on construction duty, which, that's what led him to finding the car, basically, and which leads him down this whole series. So Frank tries to follow the clues on why this boss wants this guy dead. He ends up going and talking to him, tells him that he's not big on tech, and the guy tells him, the big bad basically tells him, yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like people should just give into their inner thoughts and like let the evil basically come out and just, go crazy like it used to be survival of the fittest in a way. And, Frank, he's already skeptical on this guy already. He doesn't have, high hopes on him. So, But the big boss wants to keep an eye on Frank to make sure that he kind of stays out of the way. So he gives him this brand new car, basically an electric car, to almost kind of, what he's going to use it for later. And, the bad guy wants to get further into, like, he wants to basically calm people up, not down, which is an amazing joke in itself because it's so stupid that you wouldn't think that's what they were going to do, but I mean, that's what they did. So Beth wants to help out, so they end up going to this club where the guy's at, and Beth puts on a distraction, talking to him, basically saying that she's into him, while Frank goes into the back trying to figure out some more clues, and, he ends up seeing security of her brother talking to this reporter guy. Obviously, he was going to be the one that was going to leak it all. So Frank gets the name and everything like that. They head back to his place while obviously the big bad obviously knew this was all going to happen. So they're following Frank. He ends up having this whole fantasy sequence that is just ridiculous. Like, it literally kind of came out of nowhere, this fantasy of them at this lodge building the snowman and then doing witchcraft, and then the snowman comes alive and they have a threesome with it. Like, it was so ridiculously out of there. It was just insane how it was so out of there. And then the snowman tries to kill them. Like, I was like, what the hell is going on here? And then it just ends. Like, after they did all that, it just ends. Like, it made no sense, and it really came out of left field. But it was so ridiculous that it just worked. It wasn't like it felt out of place for this movie. It worked so well for this movie. So Frank takes that lead, ends up going to this reporter's house, and there's basically clues on telling him, like, hey, he walks into the blood. He picks up the knife that says, please pick me up. And then he goes to the tape recorder that says, say your name and that you did it. And then walks into the room where the reporter is dead, basically. And now he is basically a wanted man. Now he's got to evade the police and his own, evade the bad guys and stuff. And because Frank has screwed up so much that the police squad is end up closing, and now it's a spirit Halloween. So now Frank has even more motivation to try and get this all solved, because now he's screwed. And as he's driving his car, the big bad ends up taking control of the vehicle, and basically he's going to send Frank off into the water and just drown him that way and gets him out of the picture. So Frank does everything he can to get out of there. He's having issues with that. And then goes to Beth, tells her, hey, I can't really figure anything out. They got to have their second act breakup so they can come back together in the third act. So Frank ends up figuring out, where he's going to be at, and ends up going to, like, this UFC event type thing that this guy is basically sponsoring, and ends up crashing the party. Beth is already there because she was going to do her own investigating and basically kill him herself, which somehow he got the bullets out of her gun. I'm really not sure how they did that. They might have explained it and I just missed it, but not really sure how he did that. But Frank ends up getting there, ends up chasing the guy down because he ends up flipping the switch and turning people from calm down to calm up now. And now everyone's losing their shit. Everyone's attacking everybody. So they get into this big, epic fight where basically Frank uses one punch and he's just crying the entire time. The guy is just like, ow, that really hurt. And Frank's like, have you ever been in a fight? And he's like, yes, of course, I've been in plenty of fights. He's like, time out. Like, I gotta take a break here. Like, that really hurt. Like, you hit my tummy and that hurt so much. And it was just so stupid on how this ending went that it just worked perfectly for it. It was just so dumb. I enjoyed it all. And, like, obviously Frank saves the day. He stops Beth from shooting this man. They end up getting together, end up going on a holiday trip, vacation to, just enjoy and wind down after all of this crap that was going on. And they end up figuring out that they are in a movie and that us, the audience, have been watching them this entire time, and we're just freaking out because everybody in the background froze but them, and they see the credits and all that. And, like, it's a good way to end the movie. It definitely felt like an old school Airplane, Naked Gun type of feel. So, I mean, like I said, overall, I would go and see this again. Obviously, feelings might change. The jokes might not hit as much, but at the time when I saw it, I enjoyed it very much. I really enjoyed the experience. I enjoyed the movie. So my pros, obviously, Liam as Frank was just great. He did such a great job, and I'd like to see him do more comedies. Maybe not so much comedies like this, and maybe he could do other comedies. Like, he fit this one perfectly well. Like, I thought he did a great job because he played it so seriously. It felt like he was the guy from Taken, and you just threw him in the Naked Gun series. Like, it just worked so well, and I think that's why it works so well, because you could take Liam Neeson seriously as a badass action star. And so it works so well in this. But I would like to see him do more comedies and see him expand on that. I'd like to see what else he can do. I also thought the rest of the cast was really good. I thought everyone did a pretty damn good job with their roles. Pamela Anderson had some good jokes with hers. The side characters had some good ones. Like, I felt like everybody was doing a good job. And I didn't feel like anyone really did a bad job at all. Everyone played their roles pretty well. Most of the jokes I thought hit. I laughed at almost every single one of them. Obviously, there were some that were, not all great, but I would say a majority of them I enjoyed and I liked. So, like, the fact that most of the jokes I was laughing at, I just enjoyed them so much. Like, I really did. And then I felt like parody was done right. Like, it felt like going back to the old school movies, It wasn't like, it was like going almost like to scary movie like types, Instead of getting us into the crazy epic movie or freaking vampires suck, like, instead of those crappy ones where they were just trying to get cheap laughs, it felt like this was like Airplane, Naked Gun type stuff, It worked so well, and I'm kind of glad that it's back, I don't want it to overstay its welcome like it did before with all the freaking ridiculous movies that they had for them. I don't know if I want a sequel to this movie. I'm fine if it's just a one and done. I don't think I need a sequel. I mean, if they did a sequel, fine, but I don't know how well it would work. They would really have to work the story really well. Some of the cons, I didn't care for the villain. The guy who they had he did a fine job. He had some jokes in there that were okay. But overall, I didn't really care for the villain. It didn't really do anything, I feel like. It wasn't like he did a bad job, but it just, I don't know. The villain didn't do anything for me. I wasn't, and like, I get that it's a comedy and they're just spoofing on stuff, but like, it just felt like it didn't do anything for me. Like, it almost felt like he really didn't need to be there. Like, you could have taken him out and I don't feel like it would have changed much. So like, that was kind of a letdown. And then the story, it's just a simple, paint by numbers type story. I think what makes the story work is the cast and some of the jokes that worked in there. But yeah, the story's nothing crazy to write home to. It was, simple, and I get, it works for what this movie was trying to do, and, nothing crazy. So that's why I ended up giving it like a high C+. It's good. The stuff that's good about it, I really enjoyed, but like, some of the cons, it was just, it was fine. And, and I guess the only reason why it's even a C+ and not even a B or anything is because I feel like going back and rewatching it, I don't know if I'm going to laugh as much as I did the first time. But that's fine. I still enjoyed it. It's still a good movie. I still like it. So it's not like it's a bad movie because I won't laugh at the jokes as much as I did before. I still can go back and rewatch it again. But yeah, next week, I don't know exactly what I'm seeing. I don't know if it's going to be Weapons or Together. I do want to see both of them, so maybe next week's might be a double feature again. I'm not 100% sure on that, but we will see. So, but yeah, it's either going to be Weapons or Together, one of those two. And I'm excited for both. I've seen tons of trailers for freaking Weapons, like to the point where I'm sick of seeing the trailers. Like now my curiosity has peaked, and like it definitely piqued my curiosity to go see it. And Together just looks like an interesting body horror type movie, and I like the premise to it. I'm very interested on seeing that. So we'll see what happens. Any movies you guys want me to check out, I'd be happy to see and put them in the comments. Any shows you want me to see, I've been enjoying and loving the, the reactions we've been getting. The views are kind of nice. I've been liking people subscribing. I appreciate it all. I've been enjoying this little journey, this little ride we've been having so far. If you're into games, go check out my gaming channel. We're doing GTA, Resident Evil, and Injustice right now, so go check those videos out. Check out the letterbox to see my reviews on movies. I kind of changed up the wording there. Still similar to how I feel about the movie, but just changing it up there. And yeah, I will catch you in next week's